Thokozani, I am Dimu, the advocate of Idlozi, and I am here today to break down spirituality. Thank you so much for choosing to watch my video. So, I'm here to break down spirituality in terms of the spiritual journey itself. I know a lot of people tend to often feel confused, tend to feel conflicted, and sometimes discouraged and not understanding what it is the spiritual journey is. One thing I need you to understand is that a spiritual journey needs patience and it needs commitment, and it's not necessarily the easiest to walk. And it is something that we should walk in our own right. But when you're walking something like this, it requires you to do this alone. You can never do this with friends, with family, with loved ones, how you look at it. So imagine yourself holding a mirror and walking down a long road in a clear area. Sometimes the weather is not good. Sometimes you are tired to even look at yourself in the mirror. Sometimes it is dark and you can't even see your reflection in the mirror. Sometimes you don't even look too good. Sometimes it's too hard for you to even carry the mirror and look at yourself. So in my words, I'm trying to say spirituality is very complex and it needs you to be able to balance whatever it is that is coming your way. Yes, I understand your frustrations and I understand what you're going through because this is nothing easy. Imagine growing up your whole life being taught that this is truth and having to, in your adult years, having to find out that this is not the truth that is the truth. I have to rediscover myself because there is a new truth that I've discovered. So sometimes it is very good to take it easy on yourself and not necessarily try to pin yourself down and try to understand this and complicate your life. I just want to break it down for you. So instead of you trying to confuse yourself, you can work or rather walk your spiritual journey a little differently. Well, this is broken down into phases. Birth. From birth, we are born as spiritual people, right? And I did explain this, I think, in a previous video, that when you're born with your third eye and your spiritual inclinations on you, all of these opened. And as you start growing, because they are able to sense things, they're able to do this, and eventually they get to an age, whereby imagine they start being afraid of the dark. They start doing all these things. And even when it comes to baby talk, they always say that abantwana take the longest, or some other kids take longer to start speaking. And I always say you should be grateful if your child starts speaking at a later stage because it means their stay in the spiritual life was extended. Because if your child starts speaking quicker, you should know that they gain their visa out of the spiritual because now it means they need to start walking their journey. So don't be too hard on yourself thinking, oh my God, what is happening? Because when your child is making that gibberish, they call it baby talk, they're still in the spiritual and they cannot communicate the things of the spiritual. That is why they are sacred and deep. Right? So you lose all these connections and everything. And what happens? You now move into your life. And then you go through phases of growth. Whereas in the system of living, they rather call it an adolescent stage. I call it the period of discovery. That is where people start to go through the buffering zone. You necessarily are going to go through all these emotions and all these things of trying to identify who you are, what you want out of life. That is why when I think you're going through an adolescent stage, you feel you're too old, you can do this on your own. And it is very important that because we're going to be the generation of spiritually inclined parents, raising kids, when they get to that phase, you now understand now it's the buffering zone. They are trapped between the physical and the spiritual. And that is why they don't necessarily understand. So our parents wouldn't get this. So they'd feel as if they're being too harsh. And sometimes we become rebellious because kids differ. Some go through an adolescent stage gracefully. Some it just destroys them, especially if your child has a spiritual gift. The adolescent stage, it just causes a lot of things because trust me, I think 8 in 10 spiritually gifted person, they have attempted suicide. They have been rebellious at one point in their life. Not because because when they go through the buffering zone, you start to have certain things revealed about yourself because ayiko age when it comes to spirituality. When you're around that time, I think your spiritual inclinations start to reopen. That is preparing you for a spiritual age or rather awakening. Then you move on with life. then you start going through what is called a spiritual awakening. So a spiritual awakening hits us differently and at a different stage. And a spiritual awakening also comes in phases. There's a beginner's phase, there's a middle phase, there's a continuous phase, and then we have the novice phase. That is preparing someone that is gifted for a later stage. But also, the awakening doesn't stop. Think of the term awakening. Ukuvuswa komoya wakho, ukugqugquzela komoya wakho. So that always needs to happen because we are living on this world. And sometimes we lose our path, sometimes we redirect. Because I often think that the reason religion was created was because they would all the time try to keep your spirituality in check, because you would not necessarily have the tools or the balance to maneuver around all these things. So when you're going through a spiritual awakening, you go through phases of depression, you go through phases of izinto zakho zingahambi kahle. And in church, they would tell you, your faith should be strengthened, all these, they tell you all these words, not necessarily telling you that we're putting you under the space so that you can be at least guided. But the guided sometimes is not very guided because it is not free. But I'm here for people that are walking these spiritual journeys, right? So when it comes to the spiritual awakening, every time one experiences a spiritual awakening, izinto zakho ziyahlangana. And I'm not talking about izinto zakho as in money or whatever. Everything. Even your spiritual self, even everything, relationship, friendships, familyships, and sometimes things tend to be revealed. And I always say you should look at how your emotions or how you feel. Whenever there is a full moon, then you redirect it and know spiritually where do you stand. Because that is like a recharge season. That is a restarting period. We need the full moon so that it can rebalance us. Because the full moon, what it does, it absorbs all the negative energies in our spirit and in our lives and transmit new energies. Ooh, did you hear that? I hope you did. So when you're going through an awakening stage, some people will tend to confuse it, because it is our birthright as spiritual people. Because remember, this is a costume. We are leaving this here. We are leaving all of this here. This is a costume that we are wearing that is eventually someday going to be buried in the ground. And then they're going to say, ooh, all these nasty things. But let me tell you, it is a spiritual right to be spiritually inclined. We dream because we're spiritual people. We have deja vus because we're spiritual people. We have all these inclinations. That thing they call your gut feeling, that is a spiritual inclination. So when you are going through a spiritual meeting, you are in this world, but not of this world. So it is deep, trust me. So every now and then your spirit needs to be shaken a bit so that you can remember who you are and what you are. So every time people will be conflicted and saying, I don't remember my dreams. Oh my gosh, my dreams. It is because some people don't take advantage of the awakenings in their life and they get lost, or rather the data gets lost in the awakening stream. Because think of a spiritual awakening as an update to your system. And that happens automatically. You don't plan it, And what the spiritual says is that there's always time for new beginnings. It can be now, it can be then, it can be there, but there's always time for new beginnings. So you never plan for that. Some people that have got it, they feel good. Now it's time for changes in my life. Now it's time for new beginnings. I need to restart. I need to recharge. I need to reboot. Then you know that person has caught it. So when you're going through phases of an awakening, you need to get it. I think I will get into that. I think I'll do a different video on that, on spiritual awakening. Just stay tuned to the channel. So we need to keep it moving. Then from a spiritual awakening, now you get to understand your purpose. Spiritual purpose. Why are you in this world? Now, people get lost lapo. They think all of them, they are being called. No. Sometimes you understand your purpose because of who you are, where you're being sent, your sphere of contact, your workspace, whatever it is. Because if you can sit down and think of it, we are all part of this network system that is operating this earth. Whoever's position is helping whoever's position to prosper, and etc. and etc. And there are levels to these things. There's a hierarchy to these things. It is a pyramid, and we need to understand that there's a lot going on around. Oh my Lozi, how I wish your spiritual understanding was so open. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is not for the narrow-minded. This is for the free-spirited and free-minded. So I just hope you could just sit down and try to understand that things happen. Sometimes you're losing things in your life because there's a shift happening spiritually, and you need to move. We move spiritually. When something is no longer serve your purpose, it becomes uncomfortable, and it translates physically as frustration. You become frustrated in your marriage. You become frustrated in your work. You become frustrated in your career. You become frustrated with the car you're driving. You become frustrated with your look, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to change my look and spice it up a bit. That is called a shift of energy, and you are going through layer peeling. I don't know if you're hearing me. I honestly wish you heard me. We then go through the purpose phase. That is when you discover, then we go through life and all these other things. You get to understand who you are. And then if a purpose, if an is safe, that is when now we begin to be designated to our different areas. No, Umpo is gonna be there, Uzoyenzi company, agriculture, because she needs to hire so and so that they can be able to feed their families. And through feeding the families, that is supposed to go to hamba. So because of Umpo, that person can afford get it. We are all part of this. Oh my Lozi. Oh my Lozi. Okay. So there are people that are called, right? Banobizo, right? They get the spiritual calling. Then SFN, you get to understand, oh, this is what I'm called for. I have a calling. Because now, after the calling phase, you need to get to understand that the gift phase, what are you gifted for? What are you gifted as? And this is not something you need to be told as. It is an ability you grow up with. The signs are always there. While you're going through the buffering phase, you can see, good, man, I'm able to do 1, 2, 3. And whenever I encounter spiritual awakening, this is what I'm able to do. So now people are saying, what is my gift? What is my gift? What is my gift? I always say, those people, you have a lot to learn. Because gifted people, we go through the most. There's a different kind of energy that is inside my office space right now. And that energy is energy of greatness. It is energy of greatness. And I'm saying this is because what I'm sharing with you is not documented. It is not written down. And I want you to take this and run with it. Probably 13,000 of you subscribe to this channel are going to watch it, but probably 1,000 are going to get it. That's how it is. So that's why I'm saying to you that spirituality requires open-mindedness. You need to understand what it is you're going through. So then you go through the calling phase, the purpose phase, and then you identify your purpose in life, whatever it is. And then when you find your purpose, then now you become settled in your purpose, and then now you become redirected and understand that everything happens for a reason. People you meet, things you do, everything now happens for a purpose because it is serving a greater purpose. I hope I'm not talking to spiritual babies here. I hope you're getting what I'm saying to you. So where you are currently in life, they say, you are what you think. In reality, your purpose, or rather your destination, was shaped every time when you go through an awakening. So you go through an awakening, you're like, an awakening, you question your worth in life. You question where you're going in life. You start to look at yourself and feel like, I'm in one place. The peeling stage. The new layers. That is the beauty of spirituality. What a time to be alive. I'm laughing because I am happy that this is the type of wisdom and knowledge amadlozi are giving to us. Imagine. So now, inkinga ebekutheni, us not protecting ourselves, us not protecting our energies, us not being inclined enough, us second guessing, and we get the dreams and like, oh my gosh, this is not what I'm thinking. We meet people that are toxic for our spirits. We encounter situations that are toxic for our growth. We don't want to let go. We always hold ourselves back. And then what happens? Spirituality becomes frustrating. I don't want you to look at this video and think, oh my gosh, I'm just speaking again, all these nice things. No, it is because the truth. It is the truth. And how you take it is up to you. But what I'm going to tell you is that your path is for you and yours alone. And how you walk it, it is for you. And it does not necessarily have to match my standards, match whatever it is I want. Yazi, the notion of you must get it out of your head. There's so much more to life than that. You must get it out of your head because you going through a phase of a calling and then to answer the calling. Now the answering of the calling, leo inzima, because it tests you. It tests your resilience. It tests who you are. It tests your values. It tests your self-worth. You might say, but they always say that your consultant, you always hear because for a long time our ancestors had no voice. But right now they do. Right now they do. Abanye benu go through the purpose phase, understand ukuthi umsama sekhaya uzovuswa yimi. Some of you go to the purpose phase, understanding ukuthi yazi ukuze abantu balungele. This is what amadlozi akho alethe a business idea. Kusasa you are running the biggest mining or construction company there is. Abanye benu you go through the purpose phase, understanding ukuthi my calling is to bring life into this earth. I was called into being a midwife. I don't know if I am speaking to somebody or someone. Life is not at all doom and gloom. And what I want you to think, or rather have in your mind, is that once you begin to become open-minded, you will stop having excuses and procrastinating because some other things don't involve you. You're busy digging and digging and digging and digging. With dirty box, you went through the phase of an awakening because of misunderstanding and miscommunication. You think it is every right ukuthi umuntu abe spiritual. It is every right ukuthi futhi uphupha abantu bakini. It is every right ukuthi abantu bakini futhi bakulethele amalabi noma ini because you have to have umsamo as the foundation or as the root of impilo yakho. Kunomsamo sekhaya, but there is your spiritual altar that you have yourself where you go to and bleed. Ooh. So you need to sit down and reevaluate sometimes and say, who am I? What it is and where am I going? Akekho umuntu ofuza aphile nje angakhuleki angachumani nabantu bakibo akekho. But not all of us are called and chosen. Abanye benu are called for their different purposes. Abanye benu are called differently. And no one is inferior to the next. But idlozi lami linzima. Amadlozi onke anzima gogo because indlela yobizo, indlela yokusabela inzima. Stop it. Stop self-pity. Stop procrastinating. Stop running into things thinking they are solutions. Ubani owati umuyisangoma, your life is good. Stop looking at people and thinking because of things they post on social media, all that glitters is gold. No, it is not. Uzokhona impilo yakho uphilela abantu. uphilele ukumamela iy'nkinga zabantu, uphilele ukusebenzela abantu. Do you have it in you? If uqikwa manje ukuthi you have moods, because even having moods, mood swings are energy changes that are happening to you. And if you're especially gifted people, they go through that a lot, right? Energy is always changing in you, especially if you're not trained or whatever the case might be. And sometimes even if you're trained, you still go through the energy changes. So 1 minute you are good, because energy changes are always touching every chakra of yourself. So sometimes you feel bad. Sometimes you feel uneasy. Sometimes you feel good. Sometimes you feel happy. Sometimes, because it's always, think of yourself as this phone, you're always changing the themes. Nini, you're making it dim. Nini, you're making it brown because you can't see the picture properly. That is what is happening to you. So if I hope that this video is going to reach whoever it is meant to reach. And you will grow from this. It was a spoken word that I received from Idlozi. I actually wanted to make this video a diary session, but it came to me and hit me that this is the situation. So, should spirit allow again, I will definitely come back with a part 2. But guseningi gujulile, that is what I want to highlight to you. This is not spirituality. This is not the highlight of spirituality. That is not the gist of everything. This spirituality is deep. I used to always say in that my videos that spirituality is deep. It's deep. You can never reach the end. Are you ready? Are you ready to move? Because if you're not, also sale pending. No, stay in your churches, because honestly, this is a different ball game. We are in a new world. We are in a new era. So, ungezilana uma unenhliziyo encane ungakwazi ukubekezela, ungafuni ukunderstand. Our ancestors suffered under periods of abuse, under periods of oppression. So just like that. Where else you are two-sided. Believe in Madlozin because you want a new car. You believe in Madlozin because you want a marriage. This is not Powerball. So I'll be back again. Class is in session. Notebooks should be full. I'll see you around. I am Mpabadimu, the advocate of Idlozi. And once again, it was Oh My Idlozi, another packed video. I'll see you again should Idlozi allow. But thank you so much for coming through. Do leave your comments down below, and I will definitely be back with more content. Thank you so much. If you still haven't subscribed, do so. I am Mpabadimu. You can follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much. Thokozani.